Welcome to my 2022-2023 reading journal flip through. I am so excited to show you everything that's in this book. As you can tell, I've used it well. I've used it, gosh have I used it. This journal and I have done a lot together over the past 2 years. I started this at the, not from the beginning, but I started this from sort of August, September 2022. So it has those books in it as well in the first part, and then the rest is everything that I read in 2023. So let's have a look through. Just before we get into the flipping, I thought I'd introduce myself quickly in case you haven't been here before. Hello, I'm Erin. That is my name. I make bullet journal and reading journal type of videos here on this channel, and stationery stuff too. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, maybe stick around. Speaking of stationery, I have to give a really big shout out to the folks at String and Space, who are the creators of this fine journal that I've been using for my reading journal for the past 2 years. It has held up like an absolute champion. I have had problems in the past with very well used books where the signatures start to separate from the binding. That has not happened here at all. It is in perfect condition. I have really thrown a lot at this journal. I've put watercolor in it, I've put thick paper in it, I've collaged a lot, and it has just handled everything with such grace. It still looks great. It doesn't have any, maybe a couple of little scratches and marks, but it would probably clean up if I tried. If you have trouble with journals falling apart, I really highly recommend you try this journal. I believe they only have the one design, but I think for the quality it's worth it. Unfortunately, I don't have an affiliate code for you or anything, but they did gift me this journal and I am so appreciative. So let's flip through, shall we? Starting with the inside end sheets, which have this really cute star thing going on here. I've just put anything that was left over that I thought I was going to use in here and then didn't on this page. We got Zayden Rierson over here. Hey, buddy. Sometimes my sprocket, which I use to print book covers throughout all of this, will double print a page by accident, so I just stuck those extra ones in here. And of course my own nameplate because it didn't have one. We've got a grid spacing guide that I also set up but didn't use because this first page is always really awkward. And then we get into the 2022 pages. All of the setups that I have done that are available to watch on my channel will be linked in the description down below, so you can watch me do this if you want to, and some other stuff that comes up later. I started doing monthly setups further into the book in like August of 2023. Here's everything that I read in the year that was 2022. I didn't actually start this journal until I believe it was September here. So all of this I just backdated. Many thanks to Goodreads. I wasn't using Storygraph yet at this point, but I was tracking some stuff with Goodreads. At the time I was reading mostly rom-com kind of stuff, so that was kind of the theme that I went for here. This was my goal and I hit it and I was proud. I actually did this with, up to a point, I think I got lazy and stopped, but I did this with watercolor for quite a bit of this book filling in here because this journal has 180 GSM, 180? 170? 170 GSM pages, I think, which is pretty thick, and I wanted to give it a test and it handled it really well. Maybe next, if you have spent any time on my channel watching reading journal videos, you will know is what I call my TBR, because I do not like the pressure that to be read puts on something. Reading is fun for me. I don't want to make it pressure. My very first ever somewhat arty reading journal spread was this one for Love on the Brain. I didn't have any kind of star rating system yet, so I would just write it out in words rather than doing any kind of stars, which is fun. And I cut some stuff out of magazines and used my sprocket to print some extra things to try and decorate it. I kind of stopped doing that. I haven't been putting that much effort in. Funnily enough, at this point, because it was new to me and I was just excited about the journal, I did a couple of spreads for books that I really didn't like so much, but I had the right things. Like I had this camping style washi tape set, so I was like, let's use it, even though the book wasn't fun for me. And sometimes the book was fun for me, and so it was just such a good way to live in this world for a little bit longer of a book that I loved. This is my lazy version. I have extrapolated this a little into a full page for a book later on, but for now I saw this. I really wish I could remember who I stole this idea from. I apparently didn't save, I don't know if it was an Instagram post or a YouTube video, but I thought what a great low pressure way to track your books. Really like an anyone can do this reading journal style. I love it. I still do this for so many books. We're into 2023. I had so much fun setting up this setup. I just got out a bunch of stationery that I thought would look good together and played with it, and this is what came out, and I was really happy. So I kind of kept that as my ethos for my reading journal, as I don't plan too much. I read a lot more than I expected to in 2023. In fact, I ran out of space on this page here. and I added an extra page into the journal with like a washi tape hinge so that I could keep tracking things, and I almost filled that up too. So I ended up at 85 books for 2023, which I'm pretty happy about. My goal was 60, and I hit that in September, so that makes me happy. The reason I added this extra page here and not an extra one later on in the journal is because I knew I was running out of pages, and I knew I wanted to put some stats in my journal, which we're gonna do together later. So I wanted to save those last few pages for that. I tried to do this again, I didn't enjoy it as much. My theory here was, because I read mostly digital and audiobooks, I wanted to feel like I had a bookshelf. So I was trying to match the colors of the books that I read here with my markers to the actual book covers, but I got sick of it and I didn't continue, but I did hit my goal. Anticipated releases is all of the books I was looking forward to throughout the year. Good to have a place to refer back to those in case you forget. Oh, my favorite books of the year. I feel like I could talk about each one of these individually and just really give everyone a moment, but the video would end up very long. So if you want to take a reference of like Erin's recommendations for books, if you haven't read any of these books to read in 2024, I recommend them all. But I really want to shout out Trent Dalton because this is an Aussie author. I am Australian. This guy is Australian. He's actually from my city, and this book is set in Brisbane where I live. So it's just really special to me, and it's about to come out as a series on Netflix on the 11th of January. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they've adapted it. It was just such a gripping book. It was lighthearted and warm. It was dark. It was violent at times. It was so beautiful, and I want everyone to read it, even if you aren't Australian. Next up, we've got the series tracker. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep doing this, where I'm adding, like Goodreads has, I guess Sarah J. Maas has contractually 2 more books to do in the ARTISTRO series that haven't come out yet. I kind of hate that they're there because it makes it feel like there's something I should be reading that I can't read. Like they don't even have titles, so I feel like I shouldn't do that, but I've already carried this forward into my next journal, so whatever, we're kind of stuck with it for a bit, but that's okay. It's funny, when I set this up, I didn't think I'd be using it that much, and then I read a lot of series clearly, so that's kind of cool. This was my kind of long-term TBR. Anytime a friend recommended me something, I would take my journal with me to book club meetups, and we would go to the bookstore and just like look at books, and I would write them down as my friends were suggesting books to me. The ones that are crossed off are the ones that I read. Clearly I didn't read all of them. I am a mood reader and I make no apologies for it. I do still want to read all of this stuff though. And then we're into the first books of 2023, and I started off with one I really didn't like, which is kind of funny. I started the year with a big trip to Europe, so I wasn't reading as much as I normally maybe would. And here we have Erin getting back into fantasy in a big way. I read a lot of fantasy when I was in high school. I read lots of David Eddings and Tracy Harding, stuff like that. But it had been a while and fantasy has become even more fun, so that's always good. If you want to pause and read my reviews about any of these books, please do. Just keep in mind that there will be spoilers, so don't look too closely if you haven't read them and don't want to be spoiled. This has been a trend here too. If I was less into a book, I've given it less space because I just didn't feel like ranting about it. At some point, I started expanding all of my reviews into a full page, even when I set them up more minimally like this, because I realized I had more to say about books than I thought I did, unless they were a novella, in which case I still keep them kind of small. If you're into small town supernatural romance, you gotta read the Deadlights Cove series by B. Perkins and Amy Vance. It is so much fun, and it is finished now, so you can read all of it. You can just binge it. It's on Kindle Unlimited, it's an indie series, it's fantastic. Something I've found is really helpful is if I don't feel like I have a full page of thoughts on a book, I'll add some quotes in there just to fill up a bit of extra space on the page. I was in a Discord server for a buddy read for these books that was run by the authors, which was really fun, and they had supplied photos to kind of demonstrate how they envisioned the characters to look. Let me go back to Blaze and Petra over here. So I printed those and included them because of course I did. You know, I really loved a book when I'm willing to put this much effort into setting up its spread. I really like how this one came out. I loved Fourth Wing. I thought it was so much fun. And clearly I was not the only one. This was a Ferris wheel press ink, so it's a little bit shiny, but I don't know if it picks up on camera quite so well. I think this was around the time I started actively tracking when I started and finished books and having some data on how long I actually take to read things. I noticed I've read a few books that kind of feature coffee quite heavily in the past year, which gave me an opportunity to use some of my coffee-themed stationery. Coffee-themed stationery seems to be a big category, and I don't drink coffee, so I'm always like, why do I have this? It was good to have a chance to use it. This book is so good. Please read it if you love a rom-com. Extra if you like time slip stories, because this does all of it so well. August was my first time setting up monthly pages for my reading journal. I was like, I've got all this stationery, I enjoy data, why not try and do some stuff like I've seen other people do on Instagram and on YouTube, and have some stats pages, set some intentions for my journal, and just use some of my extra stationery, because Lord knows I have a lot. And this has been so much fun. I'm continuing to do so into 2024. I'm finding the maybe next, I called it might read next year, but I think I went back to maybe next after that. Having a page just to set, like, these are the books I'm somewhat in the mood for, or these are the books that I currently have on my shelf. I don't have a lot of physical books, so that's not a lot for me. I know that's not the case for a lot of readers. Setting that intention and being like, I might read these next month has helped me to read more of them. And then I still read other stuff too, and that just goes on the other page. I love how these pages look when they're filled in with all these book covers and stuff. Some of them I don't finish or I don't get to or whatever, and that's fine, but it does make the page look really fun. I also started doing dedicated pages for my book club. We're called the Literary Ladies. We're just a bunch of friends who like to read books and share book ideas with each other, so this was really fun. I don't know if I ever would have picked up Yellowface on my own, but I'm so glad that we read it with the book club. I actually set this spread up at Sticker Hangs, which is a really fun stationery social night that I go to at a stationery store called Stash World here in Brisbane. I used one of their wonderful communal pens to set up this title and didn't realize that maybe it was alcohol or oil based because it bled through, but don't worry, I covered it with some Legends and Latte stuff, so it's fine. I don't find that I choose not to finish books very often, but there's just something about this month where a couple of the books I tried to read. One was a gift from a friend. She'd read this book and passed it on to me, and she liked it and I couldn't do it. And this one I picked up at the Lifeline Book Festival. It sounded really interesting. I didn't realize it was a kid's book and I was so bored. So I was like, nope. Just FYI, these two I both had physical copies of, and I don't enjoy reading physical books anymore. It's just not for me. I totally understand that that's weird. When I get rid of physical books, there is a book swap at a shopping centre near me that is free. I take them there and just put them back into rotation. September, let's go. This was a really fun one. I have brought this back for January because I like how it looks. It's a bit complicated, but these are all timelines of how long that I've read books, and I got this idea from Books Ergo Sum on Instagram. Amanda, her account is amazing. This is when I got really heavily into audiobooks, and I just stopped listening to podcasts because I was sick of being advertised to. And so I started finding that I was reading a lot more than I expected. Something that's been really fun about the Literary Ladies is that each of us like really different things. So sometimes someone will pick a book that I would absolutely never choose to read myself, and then I find out a lot about it. Even if I only somewhat enjoyed this book, I'm not a horror girly at all, but I learned so much when we had our Literary Ladies catch up and talked about this book, about why I didn't enjoy it, because I just didn't get a lot of what was happening. It was really aimed at people who love a horror movie, and I don't watch horror movies, so I didn't get a lot of what they were talking about. It just went right over my head. Oh, quick flip back for a second to these Infinite Threads. The next book in this series is coming out this year. I think it's the final one, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. Team Cyrus, let's go. Last one in the Deadlights Cove series, much anticipated. My partner and I listened to the Andy Serkis version of Lord of the Rings, of Fellowship of the Ring, on a long drive, and half of the Two Towers, but we are only listening to them when we're together on long trips, so we haven't finished Two Towers yet, even though this was quite some time ago now. September, October kind of time. I've been experimenting a lot with the reading stats page, and I've kind of landed on this as my system. I'm doing this with a calendar for January, but I have decided I don't really like pie charts in this system because I'm bad at setting them up myself. If I was printing them, sure, no worries, but I've retired them here. I even whited one out and write everything out as a list instead. The progress bar I like, but I feel like it takes up too much page space. I prefer the calendar system. Is this not just the most satisfying page? I love this so much, although I didn't read a couple of the books, but I read the rest of them. I've got a bit of space here that is just going to stay empty. I'm okay with that. It was a living, breathing thing, this journal, and it's all right if there are some spaces that you thought you'd come back to, but you don't. Just works out that way sometimes. Quite a few of the books ended up not in chronological order in here as well, in order to arrange pages so that I could have something arty or parts of a series next to each other. That's fine. See, like this is November 8 to 13. This is November 1 to 18. This is November 22, 23, 24, 26. So it's overall, the through line is somewhat chronological, but also not completely. See, like this was a December book, but it's in the November pages because that's just where I had space. I'm all right with that. That doesn't bother me, but it might bother some people. This right here was my very last read of 2023, although I have another spread after it because I wanted to give Mixed Signals a moment here and really celebrate the strawberries. It was so much fun. And here we have 1, 2, 3. There's one more in there. I know there is 4 pages left. So these last few pages I want to use to put some nice reading stats on, and I've gone ahead and printed these ones off. These are from Storygraph. You can also print your Goodreads year in review stuff if that's the platform that you prefer. I use both, so you know, we can be friends on either or both. There are links in the description if you like. I do want to mention I did go in and edit some of these. You see how slow here in the pace section has a little line that goes to it? They were actually like that for all of these sections, and I didn't like how much space it took up because I wanted to make sure that I could fit these on my A5 pages, so I edited some of this stuff to make it just fit a little bit better, but my plan is to just chop this down, stick it in, have this record of my stats. And I had half a page left over because I'm using A4 sticker paper here, and I've set up a few books in my 2024 reading journal already. And I'm using the Corpile rating system in 2024. I'm testing it out and I'm already getting annoyed by having to stamp all of these letters. That's the way that I've been doing it. I don't have to stamp them. I've been choosing to stamp them. So because I had some extra space here, I made myself some Corpile stickers so that I can just smack that in there instead of doing things the hard way, you know? It's 2024. We're about working smarter, not harder this year. And I'm really glad I decided to cut all of these little pieces out because I think I'm gonna fit them in a much more interesting way on the spreads here. I'm gonna break up some of the pie charts and just make sure that there's interesting things going on everywhere. I'm going for a fantasy novel inspired font for my heading on the first spread here with the 2023 reading stats along the top, adding a little via Storygraph on the side just to make sure that if I post any photos of this to Instagram or anything, people know how I got this data. I actually hadn't been planning on decorating this spread at all, but I've decided to make it tie in. I've still got some of these ink drops left over, not in the same colors as the initial setup, but I do still have some, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick the one that's the closest, which is probably a bit of that. Oh, a little bit left over. And use a little bit of that and maybe a little bit of this. I will pop links to all of the little bits that I'm using to make this come together so that if you want to get any of these papers or pens for yourself, you can do that. While we're setting this up together, I thought I'd just walk you through the stats that I'm pasting down here. So on the left page, we're going to have a graph first up that takes up the whole horizontal space. It is the number of books and pages read over the whole year. So it was 85 books. That's the blue wavy part of the chart. And The pages read part is the orange wavy line, graphed across the entirety of 2023. I've got 2 pie charts on the left side. As far as fiction and non-fiction, I read 100% fiction in 2023, which isn't a surprise especially, but I did read at least 1 or 2 non-fiction books the previous year, so, you know, maybe I should work on that. The format section is the different ways that you read a book, whether it's a physical book or an ebook or an audiobook. Mine was 53% audio and 47% digital for the year, which tracks. I think, yeah, 50-50 split seems about right. Obviously very slightly more towards audio than digital, just because I can do that while I do other things. My average rating for the year was 3.84 stars, which seems appropriate. There's a little congratulations on meeting your reading goal, and it said I did 142% of the goal, so I thought that was nice and I thought I'd include it. My longest book was Caught by Tracy Wolff, which is from the Crave series, at 941 pages. No wonder it took me so long. And Christmas Presents by Tara DeWitt was my shortest book, 41 pages. On the right page, the genre section is a really fun horizontal line graph. Romance is my top category here, which is not a surprise to anyone, I'm sure. It's come in just under 60 books, so I'm guessing that's like 59. Next up was fantasy, which is the green line, and that is at 41 from what I can tell. Contemporary at 30, and then we have young adult down at 11, historical at around about 7, LGBTQIA+ is at 6, and then we've got 5 and under, I'll just list them out for you: mystery, literary, classics, thriller, speculative fiction, dystopian, magical realism, science fiction, and horror. I'm having 2 pie graphs at the top. The pace section, according to Storygraph, 70% of the books I read had medium pace, 27% were fast-paced, and 4% were slow-paced. Page number, so 70% of the books I read were within the range of 300 to 499 pages. 17% of the books I read had less than 300 pages, and 12% had more than 500 pages. We're going to do a second spread as well, so rather than the fantasy lettering this time, I'm just going to hand letter it with some cute, bouncy-ish calligraphy and include some of the bigger graphs that take up a lot of page space and also some of the smaller data. So I've got a section that's for my tags for Storygraph. You can assign your own tags. I've done one for library books because I've been getting almost all of my audiobooks through the library, which has been amazing and saved me so much money. 25 of the books I read in the past year were from the library, and then I have a tag for Literary Ladies, which is my book club as mentioned before, so I can keep those books in their own nice little tag. And I've started one for the Page Majors too, which is the book club that I'm running through my channel membership program. So if you'd like to join in on some reading with me in my book club in 2024, you can do that. You just have to hit the join button down below, and you need to become a Hand-Lettered Heroes level channel member to get access to the Discord server where we are running the book club and having chats about them. And the book we're reading right now is The House Witch by, is it Delamark? I'm not sure how to pronounce. March had the highest average rating for my reading, which was 4.33 stars. January was my least favorite month of the year apparently, with 3.0. I also read the least in January, so that might have something to do with it. And the month I read the most pages was September, with 4,110 pages. Storygraph can convert audiobooks to pages, which I love. There's a nice graph at the bottom of my star ratings. 4 is easily the highest category. I've got like 25 books that I've rated 4 stars apparently. I wasn't rating with any kind of system, I was just going by the vibes. And there's a chart for my most read authors as well. I'm at equal 9 books for Sarah J. Maas and Amy Vance. B. Perkins is in there with 8, and then we've got Holly Black, Christina Lauren, Tara DeWitt, B.K. Borison, Lucy Score, Tracy Wolff, and Rebecca Yarros. And then there's a mood section down the bottom, which is just a bit of fun, really. There are different colors for each mood, and you can kind of get an idea of where things fall there. But emotional, adventurous, funny, and lighthearted seem to be the biggest categories there, which totally tracks as far as what I like. And with that, the reading stats pages are done. I have 2 little spreads left. One's got some bleed, and that is the end of the book. Is there anything back here? No, there's not. Thank you so much for joining me for this little exploration of my fully completed reading journal. It's so satisfying. I'm so proud of this book. There are 137 books logged in here. I'm so proud of myself. This little cutie is going to be retiring from the channel now, but you'll be seeing plenty more reading journal content from me in this book. There are 2 videos for it already on my channel, so if you'd like to keep watching, there is a link in the top right corner right now to the initial setup for my 2024 reading journal, and just below that is a link to my January setup in the same journal. I hope to see you over there. Catch you again soon. Bye!